James worked hard for years, saving every dollar. But one day, he realized his savings account was silently stealing from him. Ronnie thought saving money was the safest move. He trusted his bank completely, never questioning if it was actually working for him. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Your savings account is losing value every single year, quietly and invisibly. Inflation in America averages around 3% annually. Your typical savings account pays just 0.5% interest, maybe less. James did the math and felt sick. Every year, his purchasing power was shrinking, even while his balance looked fine on paper. This silent loss has a name. It's called inflation erosion, and it's been draining American savers for decades without anyone noticing. Ronnie asked James, "So what's the solution?" James smiled and said, "It starts with understanding where your money actually needs to go." In 2024, the average American savings account rate was 0.46%. Inflation that same year ran at 2.9%. That means for every $1,000 saved, you effectively lost around $24 in real purchasing power last year alone. James had $50,000 sitting in savings for 5 years. He lost the equivalent of $6,000 in real value silently. Ronnie was shocked. He always thought more savings meant more security. But the numbers were telling a completely different story now. The banks know this gap exists. They profit from lending your money at 7 to 8%, while paying you almost nothing back. James called it the biggest legal wealth transfer in American history. Banks take your money, grow it, and return almost nothing to you. So what should Americans do instead? The first step is moving idle cash into a high-yield savings account immediately, without delay. HYSAs in 2024 were offering 4 to 5% annually. That's nearly 10 times more than a standard savings account. Ronnie immediately opened a HYSA that same week. Within 1 year, his $10,000 earned over $400 in interest alone. Compare that to his old savings account, which would have earned just $46 on the same amount in the same period. James explained that HYSAs are FDIC insured, just like regular savings accounts. Your money stays completely safe, but earns dramatically more interest. The only mistake Ronnie made was waiting. Every month in a low-yield account is another month of real money quietly walking away. James looked at Ronnie and said, "The bank was never your friend. It was always a business, and you were always the product." James explained that most Americans never question their bank, simply accepting low returns. That blind trust was costing them thousands, every year. Ronnie asked how much he actually lost over 5 years. James pulled out the numbers, and Ronnie's face completely dropped instantly. 5 years of saving $10,000, earning just 0.5%. Total interest earned was only $230, total. Meanwhile, inflation silently eroded over $1,400 in real purchasing power. Ronnie technically saved money, but actually became poorer every year. James said this is not an accident, it is by design. Banks are built to profit from your financial ignorance, always. Ronnie felt angry, realizing he had been financially asleep for years. He asked James what the smartest next move actually was. James said step 1 is separating emergency funds from investment money, always. Mixing both is one of the costliest mistakes Americans make. Your emergency fund belongs in a high-yield savings account, earning 4%. Everything else should be actively working harder for you. Ronnie immediately moved his emergency savings to a HYSA, feeling smart. Within 12 months, he earned over $400 effortlessly. James then introduced the next level, index funds, for long-term wealth. This is where real compounding power begins working for you. The S&P 500 has averaged around 10% annually over decades. No savings account on earth comes even remotely close to that. Ronnie asked if index funds were risky, sounding nervous. James said short-term yes, but long-term they are remarkably consistent always. James showed Ronnie a simple example, $10,000 in the S&P 500. After 30 years at 10%, it becomes $170,000. That same $10,000 in a savings account after 30 years. Total value barely crosses $15,000, losing massively to inflation forever. Ronnie stared at the comparison, completely speechless for a moment. 174,000 versus 15,000, same starting amount, completely different outcomes. James said the difference is not luck, it is simply strategy. The wealthy know this distinction, and they act on it early. Most Americans were never taught this in school, unfortunately. Financial literacy is not in the curriculum, and banks prefer keeping it that way. Ronnie realized this was not about being rich, just being informed. The gap between wealthy and struggling Americans is mostly just financial knowledge. James said starting today matters more than starting perfectly, always. Even $50 a month invested consistently will change your financial future completely. Ronnie made a decision that evening, no more excuses whatsoever. He opened his first investment account, finally taking control of his financial future. James warned Ronnie about one common mistake, timing the market always. Nobody can predict markets perfectly, consistency beats timing every single time. Studies show missing just 10 best market days destroys your return significantly. Staying invested consistently is the only truly reliable wealth-building strategy. Ronnie asked about inflation hitting his investments too, sounding concerned. James smiled and said, "That's exactly why index funds exist for you. Index funds grow with the economy, naturally beating inflation over time. Your money compounds faster than prices rise, building real lasting wealth." James introduced dollar cost averaging next, a powerful simple strategy. Invest fixed amounts regularly regardless of market conditions, removing emotion completely from investing. When markets drop, your fixed amount buys more shares automatically. When markets rise, your existing shares gain value, winning both ways always. Ronnie started investing $200 monthly into an index fund. He stopped checking prices daily, trusting the long-term process completely. James explained compound interest next, calling it the eighth wonder of the world. Einstein reportedly said those who understand it earn it, always. Here is what compounding actually looks like over real time. $1,000 at 10% annually becomes $2,590 in 10 years. After 30 years that same $1,000 becomes $17,450. Without adding a single extra dollar ever. Ronnie sat quietly, doing the math in his head slowly. He had wasted nearly 8 years in a savings account, doing nothing. James placed a hand on his shoulder, speaking calmly and firmly. He said starting late still beats never starting, every single time. Even starting at 35 instead of 25 still builds enormous wealth. 10 years less compounding still creates life-changing financial results, always. James said the real enemy is not age, it is inaction completely. Every single day you wait costs you more than you realize. Ronnie pulled out his phone and opened a brokerage account immediately. He deposited his first $200, feeling something shift inside him. James said the wealth gap in America is not about income, primarily. It is almost entirely about financial habits formed early and consistently. Most millionaires in America did not inherit wealth, surprisingly. They built it slowly through consistent investing, avoiding lifestyle inflation, and staying patient always. Ronnie finally understood the game being played around him, feeling clarity. He was not behind because of bad luck, just missing information. James smiled and said, "Now you know what banks never wanted you knowing. That knowledge alone is worth more than any savings account ever. Your savings account was never built to make you wealthy, remember that. It was built for the bank, not you, ever."
Hey, if this video gave you something to think about, that's exactly why I make these every single day. Most of this stuff nobody ever teaches you, and I just think that needs to. change. So if you got value today, hit subscribe.